Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Litter Media Live. This is a special edition, and as you can see, we have footage of the Drug-Free Clubs of America M.A.D.E rally from October of 2018. And today, it even had a helicopter that day. This guy is in a go-kart, or he's not going to be there in a golf cart this day, but he will be, I'm sure, on Friday. Dave Huggins is with us. That was Chris Scott, and we had hoped to have Chris with us as well, but he's busy doing other things. He's got a lot of prep work to do, right?
Yeah, but we are getting the golf carts out again. I mean, if you ever want to feel power, you get yourself a reflective vest, a golf cart, and a radio, and you are somebody.
Look out. Well, you've got a purpose for why you're doing what you're doing, and we're going to talk about that here in just a few short moments.
Sounds good.
But first, we want to tell you that this interview is being presented to you by our friends at Rathkamp Financial Services. More with Dave Huggins coming up.
At Rathkamp Financial, we offer customized investment solutions and superior client service. We believe in long-term relationships and working to earn your continued trust. Our greatest satisfaction comes from working with clients for many years and helping them realize their dreams.
As we mentioned, our special guest is Dave Huggins with Drug-Free Clubs of America and also the M.A.D.E program here in Ross County. I think a lot of people know what M.A.D.E is, but let's just do a quick review for those watching that maybe don't have a clue as to what M.A.D.E is.
Well, I can tell you that you can cover this a lot because I still talk to people to this day who don't know what all the different companies are and So M.A.D.E is an acronym for My Attitude Determines Everything, and that's basically what the kids came up with back in 2016 when we were getting ready to launch Drug-Free Clubs of America. That's what they wanted to call their Ross County chapters. What we are executing is the Drug-Free Clubs of America program out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and there's about 60 schools in Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia that have this program. In Ross County, we're 8 of that 60. And then the $1.50 is the financial provider for those kids in the Drug-Free Clubs of America program. And we pay about $67 per year per member for them to have the benefits and features that the program offers the students, schools, and families.
Now, of course, this is a rewards program, but it also rewards them for their participation in volunteer drug testing.
That's right. So the way the program works is each student volunteers to join. There's no prerequisites. I spoke to some kids just yesterday down in Jackson, Ohio, and I don't care if you're short, tall, fat, skinny, black, white, blue, green, male, female, rich, poor. Anyone can join this program, and I think that's the neat thing about it because it really can galvanize and bring a school together.
And it has. Here in Ross County, you've got all the schools involved. You've extended beyond the county borders up into Pickaway County as well as Pike County, but since we talked back last spring during the $1.50 in talking about this, you had an even brighter idea of expanding it yet even further.
Yeah, I think it's events like the rally this Friday that we'll get to witness these kids and the stories that they tell and the experiences that they have and really just how important this program is. So the $1.50 board met last spring, and we started talking about some of our southern Ohio neighbors down in Pike, Vinton, and Jackson counties. And although we're far from rich, we don't even have the dollars to pay these bills yet. We're going after it, and we'll find some more sponsors, we'll find some more runners, we'll find some more donors, and in general, it's important, I think, to have this program in every school that we can possibly support. So excited about that move this year, and it's going well.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. And the reception has been fantastic amongst the kids. And I was talking with my granddaughter who will be participating in the rally this Friday about Huntington's involvement. And back in 2016, when you launched this, weren't they one of the highest percentage amongst the kids that signed up for it?
You know, Huntington has a very special place in my heart because they did things that I really never even dreamt was possible. You know, our goal initially was to have this 25 or 30% enrollment in Ross County. And then eventually, in maybe years between 3 and 5, we could get to 50% enrollment because, at that point, now we have the majority.
Right.
Now we're really swinging the pendulum in the positive direction that we're trying to go. But Huntington really just, they quite frankly just worked their tails off. Pete Ruby, Anita Rogers, at that time Nathan Kaplinger was the principal there, and they really just jumped in with both feet and found ways to support their kids and engage their kids. And I know they were in the, say, 60% range the first year, and they've really ever since been hanging in that 80+% range, which
it's incredible.
It's amazing. Like, it really, you talk to those kids. I've read countless essays, and they'll just talk about how much it means. But that takes work. You just don't hand out some applications to all your student body and they all just turn them in automatically. Anita does a great job of having some fun activities, some fruit in the morning, coffee and donuts or hot chocolate. They've had some outdoor activity days. They do what's called the Last Chance Dance in December, where they have a dodgeball tournament and get together. And, I think that they've used it as a way to really improve their school culture, really work hard to make things positive on a regular basis and bring kids together. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, it really is. And we've seen this with a lot of organizations. And I know I'm going to use the Fellowship of Christian Athletes here for a moment. And my buddy Michael Linton at Accurate Heating and Cooling and Plumbing, he talks about the reason.
He's a great $1.50 sponsor too.
That's right.
I got to thank Michael myself.
His reason for going to the FCA was because there was fun, sports, and girls. And that's where he ended up meeting his wife. And,
okay.
And so, and meeting Christ as well along the way. But it's that kind of passion, that kind of interest, I think, that if your coordinator is on board and they can get some people to rally around with you, next thing you know, everybody's going to get on board.
That's right. It is a total team effort. And I'm certainly thankful for all the coordinators that we have in Ross County and all the administrators we have. And, when we've had these crazy ideas about getting the kids out of school and having a rally, it's all happened at the drop of a hat. Like, we say, hey, do you want to do this? And they say, hey, we think that's great. And they make it happen. And so that's teamwork by everyone. That's the law enforcement closing down the street and people donating food or cooking food or being there to help wrap hot dogs. And, I have learned a term or created a term, I call it $1.50 math. And so when you're doing events that are 150 miles or you're putting on rallies that have, 1,800 kids at, every little small thing you do gets multiplied by quite a few. And so it definitely takes a village to support all that we're trying to accomplish here.
I was on vacation during the first rally, and then I was kind of envious. I saw the pictures and things on Facebook, and I'm like, man, why wasn't I there? And then got to experience it the next year. And what you're seeing behind us on the screen, these kids were the 2018 group. So we're talking pre-COVID. And I don't know if you've taken time to sit back and watch, but just seeing all these faces here, Dave, it just tells me you're making an impact. Not one of these kids are in school now.
Correct.
The kids that were freshmen that year graduated last spring. And look how many people you have impacted with this effort.
That just gives me chills when I think about it. And I've kind of heard these things so many times, I rolled them through my head. I don't often get that these days. That's kind of somewhat those special things you lose track over time. But last year we did the math, and in 6 years with this program, we've had over 10,000 members. Wow. So you start to multiply 10,000 members times moms, dads, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and the amount of people who have now heard this story and been affected by it is, it's tens of thousands. And so that was one of the reasons why we really wanted to try to find a way to push into some of these other areas in Southern Ohio to help those families as well. So,
and in your presentation, I know a lot of the schools will come up and they'll make their own presentations. Some of them are cheers. Some of them are funny things about trying to put humor on the circumstance, but it's a very serious deal. And you've also had kids who have gotten up and told their testimony. And to hear Alyssa Putnam talk about her story, about not knowing really how drugs took a parent out of her life. And we heard that last year through a sibling, and we're probably going to hear it again this year as well. That's what drugs have done to our communities, our families. And we hear about it in the news all the time, usually in an arrest or something like that. But what we're hearing through what you're doing, we're seeing kids be spared from that. And different socialization of people, different classifications are saying, man, I never thought about that before. Or, hey, I'm not alone in this. I've got support there.
I learned this, this sounds like a super simple concept, but I really didn't pick up on it until about 6-7 months ago, and it was from Jamie Nash, who was with us to get started things at Pickway Ross, and now he's down at Buckeye Hills kicking butt and taking names. I think they had 82% enrollment down there. But it was Jamie who said last May that the only people who can fix this drug epidemic are the youth that we have right now.
Right.
We don't like to use the term the older generation is lost, but it's a lot more challenging to come back from that side of the fence once you've crossed over. So really these kids, not only are they the future for the jobs and everything, but they're the future to change the drug epidemic.
Right.
And we've been at it for 6 years, and we've seen some fabulous things, but it's going to take a lot longer. But Friday is a day of highs and lows. There's going to be a lot of cheering. There's going to be a lot of excitement and music. But then there's those moments when that young person gets up and has the courage to talk about what's happened in the four walls of their life. And it is truly amazing to think you can have that many people in an audience and you literally can hear a pin drop. Everybody wants to hear every single word that kid has to say. And I think it's that, and I think it's a lot of respect for their peers, because I've learned that for the most part, we have two types of kids. We have kids that have been affected and kids who have not been affected by drugs being in their family or friend groups. And so the ones who have had that look at that person on stage and they say, gosh, there's someone else like me out there. And then you take the side that hasn't been affected by that yet, and they start to realize how deep this problem goes. And they start to gain some empathy for their peers, and they start to, show some compassion that they just didn't know was there or needed. So it really is a remarkable day. And I know that, I want to invite everyone in the community to come down and support these kids. If there's one thing I've heard them say before is they always want more people there to see and hear what they have to say. So my challenge to you is if we're going to roll in there with about 16 or 1,700 kids, we'd like to have a spectator to represent each one of those. So come on down to the Ross County Courthouse about 10 a.m. this Friday, October 28th.
Wouldn't surprise me if you have more kids than that. It just seems like they come out of the woodwork, so to speak.
They do.
Yeah. And I'll tell you from people who don't know what's going on, when they hear about what's going on, it changes their attitude to what is happening. So what I'm getting to here is the people who complained about, the streets are closed, and so on and so forth, or a business person saying, I've got, all these kids walking in front of my business. Once they understand what this is all about, their attitude changes completely. And we hope my attitude determines everything. We hope that turns around for the epidemic as well.
It really, we've talked about M.A.D.E 100 times, but to me, it really shows the foresight that these young people have to offer for us. When they came up with M.A.D.E, you know, my attitude determines everything, which I'd never heard any acronym like that before. And nothing could be more true. I mean, whether it's the drug epidemic, your work life, your family life, you really got to have the right attitude going into it. And these kids certainly will showcase that on Friday morning. The marches, you know, we kind of got hammered by COVID the last couple of years. Obviously, the world was turned upside down. So this is the first time we've been, you know, back in the park and the courthouse since 2019. And I'm really looking forward to those kids really feeling that experience. I've walked in the middle of that march a couple times. I can get about 100 feet before I got to get out because I'll start crying because there's just so much energy that these kids have. I think it was Sarah Hayes, who was a sophomore from Huntington when this whole thing first started. She was the first one to explain to me that literally the first year it was like, hey, man, we get out of school. That's cool. And, you know, I can appreciate that. Sure. I was in school. I'd love to get out too. But
That's right.
They realize super fast when they congregate with their peers in all these different schools that this really isn't a day out of school. This really is a day of celebration and coming together as one.
Yeah. And you may have that small percentage of the kids that are just tagging along just because it's the thing to do. But they're listening. They're hearing the message. And how often have we heard in church that, you know, the younger child may not be paying attention, but they're soaking it in?
Yeah, we think they're not paying attention, but
that's right.
Their behavior might not show that sometimes, but they certainly are influenced by their peers, and that's what we're trying to do. This is a peer-to-peer kind of a program, and it's working, and it's doing miraculous things in our community.
Yeah. So your kids, when they're excited about going to this M.A.D.E rally, there's a good reason why they're excited to do this. I was at St. Trace High School today, and there was a sign on the door as I was leaving that says M.A.D.E rally, October 28th, don't forget, but then also turn in your paperwork by October 20th.
Yep.
But it's still up there as a reminder to them to be ready to rally.
A lot of I's and T's have to be crossed before Friday comes, but we'll be ready.
Sounds great. Again, everything gets together. You'll see buses going through the Yoctangee Park probably about 9 o'clock, and everything steps off from the pool and goes to the courthouse around 10.
Yep. Sounds about exactly what you'll see happen.
And then they'll turn around and go right back through the park again. So go check this out if you've not been to one of the rallies. And the weather's going to be great for this year. Last year we moved it inside because of the inclement weather, but anxious to see what it's going to be like downtown again. Good to see it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Dan.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. And we'll be down there also Friday. And make sure we've got to get more images. These are cool images right here.
Get a little update.
That's it for the show today. Thank you. And again, if you missed this live, as soon as we're done, it'll be available for you to see it again. Share it with your friends, and that way we'll get the word out about what M.A.D.E and what the Drug-Free Clubs of America is all about and what's going on this Friday. For Dave Huggins, I'm Dan Ramey. We'll see you tomorrow.